Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to our morning motivation room, our daily dose of motivation, inspiration, a lot of information, so we get our heads right for a day of perspiration, doing the hard work of our business. And as you all know, we're in Inner Excellence. We're in chapter 3 right now, going through, as he calls it, the critic, the monkey mind, and the trickster. And thanks to Carrie, we're recording a little early at the moment because I was talking about in my previous life, and still to this day, I use the global term of the drunk monkey, this creature running around inside your head, creating chaos for yourself. And I love how he kind of takes that drunk monkey and breaks it into 3 separate, distinct components. I'm still going to use the drunk monkey because I'm just entertained by it. And it actually came from a real situation in India where these macaques eat rotting fruit and get hammered and come into town and create chaos. Pretty damn funny if you ever look it up. These, literal drunk monkeys in India just terrorizing the community. And that's exactly what's happening between your ears here in chapter 3 is it's terrorizing the good version of you, the authentic version of you, the real version of you. And as always, guys, this is your room, not mine. So I am looking at hot mics. I'm looking at people that are raising a paw, wanting to speak up. And Miss Carrie, are you up on the reading?
Good morning. Yes, I am. I read up to 24, 25, though. I didn't finish 2. But
I'll take what you got.
What I do have is this is something that kind of stood out to me. Like failure is painful, but the learning and experience of failing is so valuable. We simply cannot grow into our true selves without it. Fail forward, fail fast.
Fail often, fail fast, fail forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love you're going back in that because, again, this failure piece is in the current content as well as one of the things that the drunk monkey mind, one of these 3 components that are in the content, are attempting to keep you out of. And yet, gosh darn it, we all know consciously that that's where we can make magic happen, pushing ourselves, getting in a state of risk, getting in a state of discomfort, and potentially having things go awry. Yet it's that unconscious mind where these 3 creatures, or the one global one as I utilize, live and cause havoc. Tom, my friend.
Good morning.
You always are full of great stuff. What do you got out of here, brother?
I'm full of something. So we're on chapter 3, correct?
That is correct. You are absolutely on point.
So page 35, the Theodore Roosevelt quote, I could read the whole thing, but the thing...
Do it. Read it in the room. Let's go.
It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming. Highlighted that. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions? Who spends himself in a worthy cause? Who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement? And who at the worst, if he or she fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place or her place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. You gotta get out there, is all that's saying, but it's so true. And we all have our drunk monkeys and tricksters and all that other stuff at some point in time, and that's really the value of this Mindset Mastermind book club.
Oh, I don't like that word, book club.
I knew you didn't. That's why I threw it in there.
No, we're just using this to facilitate the conversations, and it's so much fun for me because, again, I'm looking at the numbers in the room. When we talked about the doing part, okay, here's how to do real estate. We had like 40, 50 people in the room. When we talk about who you need to become, the real hard work of changing what's going on between your ears, I come back to the dedicated 25. This is, by the way, the magic that accelerates everything else. I see people time and time again doing the work, doing it at a high level. They produce it they're on stage at a national event. And the next year they're out of business because they didn't do the actual hard work. You guys are here doing it. Justin, what do you have?
I really like this paragraph under Monkey Mind Madness. From the minute we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, our minds are churning out endless stream of thoughts. Even in sleep, the mind sorts, files, and analyzes the thoughts we had throughout the day. Most of these thoughts are about ourselves and everything that affects us. And unfortunately, many of them are unproductive or negative. These thoughts tend to repeat themselves day after day, turn into beliefs about what's possible and what's not, about who we are and who we can or probably won't become. And this last part, I think, was really meaningful to me. The cluttered negative state does one thing that really hurts. It crowds out the space needed to dream great dreams and to imagine great possibilities. This is the monkey mind. It's kind of like a weed. You know, it's like in the garden, and it's sucking up all the resources, all the time. So every minute that we allow some kind of negative, either from within or externally, is one less minute that we have to have our mind in the right place and headed in the right direction.
Well, that weed analogy, so applicable for here on page 38. This monkey mind. It's choking out. It's not just taking resources, it's pushing out and choking out the space as you let that weed grow and fester, which up to this point, many of us haven't even paid attention. Now that our conscious mind is turned on to this possibility, we got to get gardening and getting it the heck out of there. So with that being said, Caesar, I saw you and and Sarah and Celeste. Boom, boom, boom. What do you got?
Thanks, Coach. I like the breakdown of the critic, the monkey mind, and the trickster. So the critic is the judgmental voice in your head. It delivers a negative verdict on something or some person, then reacts emotionally to that judgment. The monkey mind is that noisy presence in your head. It clutters your mind with too many things, often negative and unproductive thoughts on too many things, frequently leading to overanalysis and anxiety. I feel that all the time where I'm like, marketing expires, I'm doing the flyers, just calling, and then it's just like overanalysis. But just when you just break it down in a schedule, that's another beautiful thing. You just put it, okay, now I'm going to do it in this time. It like alleviates that anxiety so much because you're like, okay, I'm going to do that in that time frame, and then you just get a lot more done, it seems like. And then finally, the trickster is that deceptive voice in your head that lies to you, that tries to trick you into believing your limitations and constantly accuses you of not being worthy of your dreams. This reminds me of the gap and the gain, how we're always in that gap, saying we're not enough or we need to be here by this time. And that reminds me of that trickster part. But I love the breakdown of all of those because we feel that is our mind, and it really isn't. It's just this drunk monkey mind.
Yeah, I love in that section as he's just doing the high level of these three, and I know you guys have more to dive into them. We define the word judge as to deliver a negative verdict. So whenever I say judgment, I'm talking deliver a negative verdict. And so many fun places in here of nuggets I want to put in, yet I'm not going to cut you guys who probably have the same thoughts. So Sarah, you're up, and then Celeste.
Okay, I'll be honest, I'm not all the way through chapter 3, but the redefinition, I should say, of self-centeredness, because I'll tell you, I'm not a self-centered person, but apparently we all are. It helps with the self-awareness. And I mean, the wheels on this bus go round and round all the time. like in the middle of the night, I have to remind myself to think about sleeping instead of whatever thought is in my head. So trying to rein in this, when I rein in this drunk monkey, I know that I'm going to be a lot more successful. And by that, I mean living a fuller life.
And here's the fun part on this self-centeredness, Sarah, to go back to that content a moment, because we never did cover that piece at a deep level. We go into judgment, delivering a negative verdict on the word self-centered. And that's, whoa, I'm not a self-centered person. Well, this is just becoming aware that you and everybody else actually is, for the most part. There's still a moment of you, like, I'll come to me, working diligently to have 3 amazing, productive members of society as my children. There was the component of that is, how does that reflect on me? Yeah, it was important to help them, and I'm glad we did the things we did, and I love that focus. And at the same time, we can still look through it, the lenses. There was a self-centered component to that, and it's okay. There's no judgment around that. If we go back to the attributes, the word that overlies this in the attributes is narcissism. And again, we labeled this negative as we dove into that part. It was judgment free. It's neither good nor bad. It has its elements, and we just to acknowledge it and then tamper it down. Hope that makes sense. Absolutely. Celeste, you're up. What do you got?
So I am reading on. You know how I can be. I just have to
keep me in 3 today. Don't get ahead of us.
No, and I am going to do that very thing. And my comment today was about this idea of being critical of ourselves. And it reminded me of an encounter I had last summer where I met a lender on the phone. I got in relation with him, and our conversation was all about just enjoying our experience and being in the business. And I walked away from that conversation saying, what a great guy. Like, I really like this person. The next day, his neighbor shot him and killed him and his wife. And it shocked me to no end. And the reason why I say that is because at this moment, I asked the question, if the premise is, if today was your last day on earth, how would you like your life to look? What are you so worried about that you can't go out and be the best version of you? You don't know what could be next. My focus has been self-centeredness on the pursuit of perfectness. Instead, I would like it to be that it is that I am present, and the judgment is to lift others. That's my hope. That's my wish. And I genuinely feel like I'm talking with passion, because when you've experienced someone's shocking death, it changes you. And all of us should just remind ourselves we're something special.
Let's get into this constant critic piece, since you brought it in.
Mm-hmm.
Shakespeare declared there is nothing either good or bad in itself, but thinking makes it so. It's all our own story. And this was one of my favorites in here that I've never seen this. I've always said that judgment and gratitude cannot live in the same space. You're either in judgment, delivering a verdict, or in gratitude, delivering a positive verdict.
Shakespeare's on what page?
Shakespeare is at the bottom of page 36. So here's where I got a new aha on this. Judgment and curiosity cannot coexist. Judgment and creativity cannot coexist. So when you are in judgment, and who do you judge the most usually?
Myself.
When you're in judgment of yourself, you are no longer able to bring that curiosity and creative mind, which is where all the problem solving happens. So we've really got to work on tampering this negative verdict, catching ourselves, because all we're doing is rewiring. So going back again, the process is one, the awareness now. So you catch yourself, and I give all of you a pass on your first judgmental thought, because that's decades of wiring that has happened to wire it tight and hard. The key is now you catch yourself, and immediately in the moment you rewrite the story. You're in judgment on what you did. You call, okay, wait, nope, I'm not going to be in judgment. What can I learn from this? Where's my nugget? Look at what I did to create a learning opportunity. I am so grateful for that.
Yeah.
You change it. And if you keep doing that, all of a sudden your new solid hard wiring is going to be constantly gratitude. And it's going to open up the creative side. Boy, I got people lined up. So Mark, you're up. And Dustin, you are next.
So to add on to that, Russ, there's a writer out there. His name is Dr. Shad Helmstetter, and he wrote a book, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And he said, when you have those wirings like you just talked about, and you have these negative thoughts, you can't just get rid of them at one time. Like Russ said, you have to reframe that as soon as it happens. Now, if that's something that you want to work on, he suggests that you write it as an affirmation and you say it every single day. Now, the weird thing is when you write that as the affirmation, at least what I went through was the minute you write it down, it's like you're lying to yourself. Like he would say, write it down. I'm 200 healthy pounds and I feel great when I really weigh 223, right? You're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I'm 200 healthy pounds and I feel great. Like you are a freaking liar, right? And it's weird how your mind plays tricks on you like that. So you've got to do it over and over and over and over again to rewire that tight wiring, like Russ just said. Dr. Shad Helmstetter said, we built an apartment up in our head and it's comfortable, it's cozy, and we like those negative thoughts because we gave them to ourselves. But it takes the rewiring over and over and over again. And when you first do it, I swear it feels like you're lying to yourself. It's a weird dichotomy that we go through when we're trying to get those negative thoughts out of our head.
Well, I was going to say something to that effect. So when we're learning that, when we're trying to redo that, our mindset. So, because this happens to me all the time, I'll be like, oh, judgment. And then I'll be like, but I'm really grateful for. And when that's happening in front of another person, they're looking at you like, you can't be both. Like, and I'm just going to have to remember to be like, I'm just teaching myself a new mindset and like say that out loud. Because at first I wasn't able to be able to explain that to somebody. And they just looked at me like it's freaking crazy. So,
and who cares what they're looking at you at? You're adding, think about this. He just looked at you, and right to the section, you added judgment of he looked at you in a certain way. You added story to that. And this is, again, catching yourself in the moment. Now, here's another key for you guys on this. It never goes away.
It doesn't.
It tamps down and gets quieter, but it's like, I got little girly biceps. So I go to the gym and I start lifting. At first it's uncomfortable and it hurts and nothing's really going to come from this, blah. And yet you keep doing it over and over and you build big biceps. You stop doing that work. And what happens? It goes back to little girly biceps. It's the same with the neurons in your brain. So it's going to be a permanent process of catching yourself, Carrie, of changing it. And even in those moments where it's the most extreme, where you go back to the old way, you're catching and rewiring. Dustin, you're up.
So one thing that might help everybody is, if you haven't noticed, we keep on bringing up the word judge. The critic is essentially just the judge. That's the main player. He's the ringleader. And you really have the trickster and the monkey brain kind of being like the accomplices, right? So the judge is going to be around all day. And so what Russ is saying is kind of, in order to catch the judge, it's all these negative thoughts. So remember, there's 3 points to the judge. It's judge of self, judge of others, and then judge of circumstance. So whenever you guys start to feel stress, anxiety, fear, frustration, disappointment, anger, shame, guilt, resentment, self-pity, self-doubt, resignation, sadness, that's all the judge. And that's what Russ is talking about, and how to catch the judge. It's okay to have those feelings, but it's kind of like leaving your hand on a hot stove. Pretty dumb if you leave it there for 5, 6, 10 minutes, right? So you catch the judge. And then we're going to remove the judge. And I'm sure he's going to get into the book, but that's where it's, love of others or love of self or what's most important about this situation. But if you kind of think of the critic as the judge and it's the ringleader of everything that's going on in your mind, and when you can catch all those negative thoughts, we have to stop and pause and recognize it for a moment. And then it's going to start building on how do we change the neural synapses in our brain. But sometimes it's a little bit easier for you guys, instead of the critic, just think of it as it's the judge. It is judging everything. And it's judge yourself, circumstance, and others.
And I want to throw one more character in that I'm staring at, because the judge is up there in your drunk monkey mind making these things happen. Well, who's the executioner? Because you take those judgments and then you beat yourself and flog yourself from those. Knock that crap off. Even in the moment, if something you didn't get you to your goal, you get to let that go and not take the next steps of executing yourself. And instead, it's like, the judge renders judgment and you get to render sentencing. And you're the nicest one in the world that just always let yourself off with a warning that we know you're going to get better and improve every step of the way. Justin, loop yourself in, brother.
So as we talk about the judge and executioner, I was thinking, I object, Your Honor. Like there needs to be some kind of a reframe, because I've definitely punished myself this way plenty. And I've got to imagine that everybody in the room has, some, well-intentioned loved one, could be a parent, a kid, a brother, a sister, or whatever, who, when you have this struggle, when I've had this struggle internally, that's what makes you feel better is, oh, you look kind of fat. Like what's going on with that? Or, you work more than anybody I know to have, this or that, whatever struggle, or like these other things that chime in. So I think, there's another race in this, to fix ourselves and to simultaneously detach from that well-intentioned judgment from those that are usually closest to us.
Well, two pieces I want to drop in here with you, Justin. One, there is no fix yourself, but could that mean there's something wrong? I want to come back to the analysis again. This is you just putting down a piece of baggage. It's not that there's anything that's broken. It's just you're carrying some shit and you got to get rid of it. And number two, whatever anybody else says, it's only, quote, judgment if you take it on as such. This is where it gets powerful.
If we said it was a really big shit, would that imply judgment?
Then put it down. Okay? Because it is your judgment that's adding this story to it. And guys, my $1 million question for everyone in those moments where you're in that space is, how is that mindset serving you? If it's not propelling you to joy, if it's not propelling to your goals, if it isn't really getting you where you want to go, then you got to change that. And it's 100% a choice. What's going on between your ears is a choice. No matter what the story, again, that you've taken on, there's many of us in this room that as youths or maybe afterward, we got labeled with maybe an ADHD label. And that label had all these accoutrements that others put on it of the things you couldn't do in the way you were. And even to this day, you get to choose to just say nope. Last thought on this, I'll take you back again to the Miracle Man document that we used, or video we used to watch back in my previous content. This is based on a 1985 pilot. I think it was 85, that he crashed his Cessna and broke C1 and C2 in his neck and had zero control of his body. Couldn't breathe on his own, couldn't swallow and digest food on his own, couldn't move a single part of his body. And the doctors told him and his family, he could hear it though, he was not able to respond. He'll never walk again. The most he'll have is be put into a vegetative state in some facility and live his life, his short life out there. And he chose in that moment, everybody's wrong, I'm right. And I'm going to build a checklist, a step-by-step plan to prove this. And by the way, a year later, walked back into the doctor's office who said no and shook his head and thanked him for everything that occurred. Up to this point, no one had ever survived those injuries. So also think, because he was willing to not accept it, how many other lives got changed because he was the one who didn't accept reality and created its own. You guys get to do the same thing on a scale every single day for yourselves in whatever is challenging you. So I've got Jeanette, I got Tom looping back in, I got Caesar looping back in. Jeanette, I'm going to have you go first. I don't want to be a patriarch. What do you have, Jeanette?
Well, if he was there first. I'm sorry that I had to step away for a few minutes. I want to go back to the word about judgment because of the connotations that it means. Judgment has always meant negative to so many of us. And I realized, and a lot of that comes from the Bible. Okay. So I just want to go into this for a second. So it's a judgment day. It's a judgment when you are also given your rewards. It's an assessment. We have to assess things as we go. Judgment does not mean bad. Judgment can be the reward. If you're not, we wouldn't have Olympics without it. We wouldn't have anything right now. We wouldn't have so many things that are there. And I appreciate it also on page 43 and 44, if nobody else has already given it.
Go.
But it really is, all things are here to teach me and help me. It's all working for my good. And the problem is not the problem. The problem is the way I'm thinking about it. And we're here to grow our thinking. And I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. And glad you are, and bringing a perspective on judgment. And again, that's why I love separating it, leaving judgment in its space and adding gratitude. I love that you changed it to assessment. Because yes, we should be assessing things, including our own thoughts. Doug.
On page 39, about the middle of this page, it talks about a guy named Charlie Mather, the mental skills coach for the Cleveland Brown Indians, said that a lack of awareness of our thoughts is our biggest obstacle. And I think what he's referring to here is our lack of self-awareness. And what's happening is we're getting so distracted, we're not getting anything done. And so being able to focus, being able to absolutely laser focus and get back on what we're supposed to be doing when we get distracted. I know people talk about people that would come in and say, you got a minute? And I can talk to you at 3:00 this afternoon. You put it on the calendar. You use the calendar and you use your schedule to overcome this craziness, because that's what this is. It's absolutely insanity. And I think this is a great point that he brings out here. He also says, if I can't get through this inning, let's see, in the next paragraph, he says, I don't know if I can get through this inning. So they're creating a reality when the real reality is a hitter, there's a catcher, and there may be men on base. In other words, stay in the moment. Just stay focused. Just stay where you're at. This living in the moment, in the now, is such a big deal. So that's what I was wanting to contribute.
Awesome. So to wrap that living in the moment and the now, for those of you that are a little behind on the reading, spend some extra time today. Count the time to sit down with your green highlighter and your content and start highlighting what you want to talk about. And we are going to move into chapter 4, starting on page 47, the 3 pillars of extraordinary performance. Okay, we're going to start getting into some of the deeper work that we get to do. And by all means, if there's something previous you caught, just like others in this room did today, bring it back in and let's have a conversation about it.